Panther people, what up? What's going on? You're watching Panthers Post. I'm Phil Perkins. Thanks for joining us. If you're new here, make sure to like, subscribe, join in the comment community. I'm sure we got a lot to talk about in this episode. This is an instant reaction to the Panthers' Week 6 overtime loss to the Minnesota Vikings. They lost this one 34-28. Both teams now 3-3, but the Panthers looking like a different 3-3 compared to the Minnesota Vikings 3-3. They definitely got the juices flowing, that's for sure. I don't know if I'm alone here. I was about to turn it off at the point where the Panthers just showed absolutely no life in the fourth quarter, and I was just like, I felt defeated, y'all. I felt very, very defeated. It was an overtime game. A lot of people probably didn't think just how the Panthers' offense and in a way their defense played in this game. We didn't think we'd even get a chance to get to overtime. But we'll get to that later. But let's talk about the rest of the game before that led up to all this, because there was really just one drive that led the Panthers to OT territory. But before all that, let's be honest, even Jonathan Vilma, who brought up, and he is a former New Orleans Saint, former New York Jet, former Miami Hurricane, he pointed out that at one point the Minnesota Vikings had more yards from penalties than the Panthers offense had from just strictly offensive plays. And before that drive that potentially saved the season, or it looked like it saved the season, or at least Sam Darnold's career a little bit, at least bought it more games, Sam Darnold was absolutely woeful. Brutal. I think it was 12 completions and 30 to 35 attempts. That just doesn't seem like a very balanced offense. Now, I'll tell you right now, I'm not an offensive guru. I'm not Joe Brady. I think he's like a year or 2 years younger than me. He's an OC in the NFL. I am who I am. But Sam Darnold proved to us from the very first play in the very first drive, he is a liability. He is a liability. And you can almost tell from the offensive play calling and the coaching that they can tell that he is a liability when he has the ball in his hands. He is, as Dennis Green said, he is who he thought he was. And that very first play, that INT that put the Minnesota Vikings in prime field position, luckily the defense bailed us out again. More on the defense a little later. But Sam Darnold does not put you in a position to win right now. He's just not. Sam Darnold just has to hold on to the ball. And he said this during the pre-broadcast meetings with the broadcast team, that you just can't turn it over. And he turned it over in the very first pass of the game. He fumbled the ball in the fourth quarter with a coverage sack yet again. I don't know how big his hands are, but he couldn't hold on to the ball. It was on the turf, Minnesota ball. That just kills momentum. It kills the crowd. It's super sad to see. And it's that kind of stuff that lets the haters realize that you're just not the guy. You're just not the guy. I'm watching Caleb Williams from Oklahoma. I'm like, when's his draft availability? Like, I'm thinking like this. And I think until he proves us wrong at this point, since he was traded, people knew he was a glorified stopgap. And that's kind of seems like what he is right now. And the rest of the offensive skill players are feeding off that energy. And I don't know what he needs to do. Maybe he needs to take a mini bye, even though they kind of had one after having Thursday Night Football. Get down to Southern Cal. Go play some golf, just chill, clear your mind, and just get back out there and forget the tension, because he's playing with a lot of tension, and everyone else is playing with a lot of tension as well. And it's not great. It's not great. We talked about during the live stream last week, there's tractors and there's trailers, and he is just not a tractor, except in that last drive, and we're going to talk about that. But the Panthers' offense just looked brutal, man. Absolutely brutal. And it's not just on Sam. Robbie Anderson was a no-show until when it mattered the most. DJ Moore, uncharacteristically weird. He huge gain, doing his normal DJ Moore thing, yards after the catch, fumbles the ball. We haven't really seen him fumble the ball much since his rookie year. I think it was against the Washington football team, and that was brutal. Remember that? And he got better after that. But Chuba Hubbard was a lone bright spot, the Canadian, with his first NFL touchdown. That put the Panthers up 7-3. But he was all right. He was pretty good. Again, got to get better in the passing game. There were a couple moments where Darnold looked his way, and that would normally be the Christian McCaffrey check down, and Chuba just wasn't available and just didn't make a play, a.k.a. didn't catch the ball. But besides that, he was running it all right, and so was Royce Freeman when the minimal times they gave it to him. And honestly, I'm not going to lie. While they're the bunt of everybody's jokes right now, the Panthers' offensive line really wasn't that bad from what I took away from this. And maybe the all-22s and, the tape heads out there would tell me different. They gave Sam time. They really did. And I thought they were going to have a tough time against this vaunted Minnesota Vikings defense. Danielle Hunter scares me to this day still. And besides that one just absolutely blown blocking coverage for right in the middle of the offensive line where Sam just got eaten up by the former Baylor player, who I hope that the Panthers picked up in the draft, but it didn't happen, whatever. The offensive line gave Sam time, and I don't know what it was. It's almost like Sam was playing like Nintendo NES, not Super NES. He could only go, instead of going left and right, he was going backward and forward. And when he had chances to, shuffle to his left, shuffle to his right, buy himself some more time, he moved up the pocket. And normally that would work out, but it was converging in the middle, and, it just didn't work. He sacked himself a couple times, and he had a lot of time. You were counting in your head, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, and then the guy would not let go of the ball, and then that's when those coverage sacks were to happen. But I feel like if he just moved to his left, moved to his right, be a bit more mobile in that way, again, which he showed in that one drive, and we're going to talk about it, it would have resulted in those loss of plays. But Sam really didn't show, and he's showing us right now on the Panthers app right now. He's wearing a plain white t-shirt, and that's how the Panthers offense looked. They just looked like a plain white t-shirt. They did not look like they had any flair. They didn't look like they had a lot of confidence. It looked like when they were making plays, it was like, should I make this play? There was like almost like everyone's got the yips now. It's like everyone's feeding off Sam's energy of uncertainty on whether he should be doing what he's doing. And it just, you can tell. And even Jonathan Vilma, and I credit a play-by-color analyst who says it like it is. And he just said this offense for the Panthers is just not good right now. And he talked about, if they get Christian McCaffrey back, if guys like Robbie Anderson step up, they could be a force. But right now, it's just not happening. And for all those who were saying that trade Christian McCaffrey, he's useless, he's holding us back, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, Chuba Hubbard played all right. But did you guys see Dalvin Cook? Their number one highly paid running back, had over 140 yards rushing in the air and also some receiving yards? That's why you have a number one top 10 running back in the league. Did you guys see Dalvin Cook? Over 140 yards rushing. He was their bell cow. He was who they drafted him to be. In the same draft year as Christian McCaffrey, that's why you need that number one running back. Who destroyed the Panthers the last couple games, minus the Philly game? Ezekiel Elliott, number one running back, all-star, potential Hall of Famer, and Dalvin Cook, Pro Bowler as well. All NFL type running back. That's why you have those guys. They are important. Sure, maybe you don't draft them, in the first round, top 10, top 15 picks. Maybe you try to find some diamonds in the rough. But guess what? Those guys that you do get in the top 10, like Ezekiel, Dalvin, Christian McCaffrey, those are the guys who you rely on. Those are the guys that punish the defense, tire them out. That's exactly what Dalvin did. By the time the defense was well into overtime, they were gassed. And Dalvin Cook exposed them. And that's why you have that number one running back, those bell cows. Boom. Those guys right there who can kill you on the ground and in the air as well. So don't give me this trade Christian McCaffrey, he's the worst. And guess what? Dalvin and Christian, I believe, maybe a bit more spread out. I can double check on the numbers. If I do find it, I'll put it up here. Dalvin's missed the same amount of time, or just very close to Christian McCaffrey, just spread out. Yes, Christian's been bunched, and it's weird for us because he didn't miss any games before he got paid, and now he did, and just coincidentally, he's out a bunch. But they've missed just almost the exact same amount of time. And they're both equally important to their team. So none of this trade Christian McCaffrey way. They need him the same way the Minnesota Vikings relied on Dalvin Cook in crunch time to kill the game. Let's talk about the defense now. Last week, people were up in arms because Matt Rule kind of slandered the defense a little bit after that Philadelphia Eagles game. And while the players did come out and they say they agreed with what he said because they believe in themselves. At one point, schedule, whatever, that the Panthers defense was the number one ranked defense in the NFL, then Coach Rule said, when you got the players that we have on defense, you shouldn't allow the Eagles to come back like that from a 12-point lead. It shouldn't happen. This week, it was bend but don't break, but they broke a couple times. There were times where the Panthers defense just weren't in the right spots, whether it was a coverage issue, whether it was a blown coverage, and it was just damn good plays. You got Adam Thielen, you got Jefferson, you got Dalvin Cook as well, and then Kirk Cousins, who's been in the league a long time, and he throws it where guys can get it, or they make plays. And that Justin Jefferson touchdown to give the Vikings a lead that leaded up to that Panthers drive in the fourth quarter was unbelievable. Those are wide receivers. Those are skilled players making plays. Brian Burns, I'm sure he's going to hate himself for this. The last couple of games, while he's been putting pressure, he's had a couple moments where he could have gotten the quarterback down the turf. And he had that moment against Kirk Cousins where he had full steam ahead. Even Jonathan Vilma thought that he went offside. And he just wrapped around Kirk Cousins. It's not like Kirk Cousins did anything. I just think Brian Burns was too fast for his own good. And instead of being Spider-Man with the sticky tack hands, he just kind of, his momentum and inertia just flung himself off. It had nothing to do with Kirk Cousins. And I'm sure he's going to hate himself for that. I know Hassan Reddick played out of his mind. Shout out to Keith Taylor. He was one of those guys in this year's draft class who I didn't really talk too much about. He was just kind of an afterthought. Oh, we got Tommy Tremble. Oh, Brady Christensen. Oh, Chuba Hubbard. Oh, Keith Taylor. Just doesn't really strike anybody as like a, considerably good cornerback, but he came from the University of Washington, DBU, and he played like a baller today. He had 2 back-to-back pass breakups. He did have a touchdown on him at one point, but besides that, I thought he came in relief really well. He really showed his length and his speed. There were a couple moments, some rookie mistakes that he got put in, and not even rookie mistakes. He just got beat by better players. And the Minnesota Vikings offensive skill players, the MVPs on their offense, were healthy, and they were here, and they're making plays. And the Panthers offense, until that crunch time, and I swear we're going to get to that drive, they weren't playing like MVPs. They just weren't. And the offense was stagnant. Minnesota Vikings, they just made plays when they had to make plays. And that was throughout the game, not just in one drive. All right, let's talk about that drive. And in my opinion, that drive that started on the Panthers' 4-yard line was, at that point, I thought if the Panthers won that game, that was a season-saving drive. But for Sam Darnold, that was a career-saving drive. Because before all that, I saw it on Twitter, people like, prepare for PJ Walker. It's going to happen. My brother was even texting me, Cam's still available, right? He's not coming back. But he's asking me, who's the Panthers' backup quarterback? I was like, PJ Walker. He's like, I don't know who that is, but he needs to get DJ Moore some points on fantasy. But that was people talking about that. I tweeted about it. I'm sure it's right here. I'm going to put it right here. That he's just not the guy. He showed that he's not the guy. He is who he thought he was. And that drive, to me, was going to be the final nail in the coffin of what the commentators, what people on the Twitter sphere, whatever word that is, were saying about Sam Darnold. That is true. He's just not the guy. He's not going to elevate the team. And then that happened. And finding Ian Thomas, of all people, right in the middle of the field on 4th down, deep in your own zone, that flipped the script. That changed things. And then he found DJ Moore deep over the shoulder on the sideline. DJ Moore bringing that one in. He had a weird day as well. As I mentioned, the fumble, couple catches that could have gotten a first down just didn't happen. And then the beautiful play calling as well, I'm sure. And then Robbie Anderson getting the touchdown. He was 0 for a gajillion in this game. Absolutely nowhere to be found. People slandering him as well on Twitter. Also, Jonathan Vilma calling him out too, saying that what the heck's on his hands? It's definitely not Stickum. He's got something on his hands. He's just not catching anything. And so for him to get that, and I really like Robbie Anderson's response. In fact, no celebration, nothing, because you knew he still had to go for a 2-point conversion. It wasn't going to be going for a field goal here, no PAT action. And he was just like, get away from me. I got touchdown, whatever. And people were cheering him. The same thing what Hassan Reddick said last week. They love you when you're great. They don't when you're not great. Paraphrasing. But Robbie Anderson, I love the attitude after catching that touchdown. I also love the 2-point conversion play. Let's do more of that kind of stuff in the red zone. It seems like they're definitely trusting Tommy Tremble a lot more with the rock in the red zone. The exact same jet sweep play they did against the Texans didn't result in a touchdown, but they did another Eric Bieniemy type, shuffle under the hand pass to him for the 2-point conversion. He acted like he scored a touchdown. He did the opposite of Robbie Anderson did, but the moment got to him. He's a rookie. But that drive gave people now a little bit of thought, like, okay, Sam used his arm, he used his legs. They think he had the longest run for the Panthers, and a couple of scrambles for him to try to move the chains there. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if he ever played rugby when he was a kid, but I know when I played, I just wasn't in the game until someone laid me out. Not I laid someone out. Someone knocked me on my butt. And I feel like Sam needed, not to get sacked or anything, but he needed to get his legs moving. He needed to feel comfortable in the game. It just felt like he was so scared to move in the pocket. But once he started moving out of the pocket and scrambling and sliding and doing that thing, it just felt like the field expanded for him. And that's when he started actually moving around the pocket as well, buying himself time, trying to make plays. So I'm not going to read too much into that drive. It was awesome. It was great for the people in the stands at Bank of America. It sounded dead in there at points. They even mentioned it on the commentary that the crowd is just not in the game right now. The Minnesota Vikings have stole it from them. But it got them back into life. All the hate that people are talking about, purple here, purple there. Guess what? That's just going to happen. People have money. People are going to go to games. I'm sorry. It's going to happen. In most English soccer games, they have entire sections filled with away fans, so you can't hate. Sometimes they're even louder than the home fans. That was a great drive. One drive. Keep that energy next week against the Get Right New York Giants. And we're going to talk about a preview about that next week, midweek, in that midweek episode. But that drive showed something. And it wasn't like they were playing a Dallas team that was resting Trayvon Diggs. It was a Minnesota Vikings team trying not to go into overtime. That showed some things. It really showed some things. And if they can carry that into next week, which is, it's 7 days from now, it's a lot to ask to carry momentum for that long. But just remember that feeling. Remember that feeling of, balls to the wall, all gas, no brakes when it actually matters. But then do that for an entire game. And with that, the third quarter really wasn't that bad for the Panthers. They had the block punt that resulted in an actual touchdown and not a safety. So defense getting better in that sense. No shade at all. I'm just happy. It was actually fun to see because I just immediately thought about last week and thought, oh my God, someone just grab it and get your feet down and then just stay in bounds for a touchdown. And that happened, which is great. So the third quarter wasn't bad. The fourth quarter had its issues except for that drive. And so in saying that, leading up besides that fourth quarter drive, in my brain, I just told myself, Panthers just not a good team. They're just not a good team. Their defense is awesome, but they can get exhausted if their offense isn't moving the ball. And compared to some of the better offensive linemen out there, our defensive line just looks, besides Derek Brown, Daquan Jones, our defensive line is kind of small. And you can be as fast as you want, as quick as you want, but if the offensive line is just going to bully you all over the place, it's kind of tough to win. And if you're gassed, it's not going to help. But hopefully Shaq Thompson gets better, take on the New York Giants against Dave Gettleman, the guy who drafted him out of Washington. But the offense was putrid besides that drive. It was absolutely awful to watch. It made me sad. That's my reaction to the Panthers' loss to the Minnesota Vikings. Let me know how you feel about the team. Do you feel kind of good about that loss? Or is that just recency bias? You're thinking about that last fourth quarter drive? Or are you realizing, yeah, we're a 500 team? We won 5 games last year. It's an expanded season, so maybe 8-9, 9-8, but, maybe just not what we expected. Yes, that was a schedule-related 3-0 start. Do you still think they're going to make the playoffs? I cautiously am optimistic that they will make the wild card somehow, just because I think the Saints are going to be exposed at some point, and I think that the Atlanta Falcons are absolute trash, dumpster fire, cannot lose that game. So I think Panthers just coaching staff, I don't know what y'all got to do. You got to regroup again, have another greatest practice of the year, and just bottle up that energy in the fourth quarter, make smart decisions, open up the playbook, trust Sam somehow, trust Chuba, trust Royce Freeman, maybe get DJ Moore in the backfield to kind of be that Christian McCaffrey replacement, because he's more like Christian McCaffrey than Chuba Hubbard is in terms of as a receiver and yards after the catch. He's kind of like a Christian McCaffrey. I don't know. Just my 2 cents there. My not professional offensive coordinator 2 cents. Get DJ Moore in the backfield somehow and use him that way. Let me know how you guys feel. Comment community. It's Panthers Post. Follow us on Twitter at Panthers Post #1. Never forget, Cam. I do appreciate you guys. If you're new here, like, subscribe. See you guys midweek.